Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Grumblings in the Wilderness, Exodus chapters 15 and 16 in our continuing study of the book of Exodus. Exodus 15:22, then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, this is after they'd crossed it, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Remember when Paul and I had crossed into the Sinai wilderness? We went about an hour or so and were already thirsty. So 3 days, they really had to be suffering. Remember, they've left Egypt, they crossed the Red Sea, and now they're heading southward down into the area of the Sinai. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were Marah, and therefore they named it Marah. Marah just means bitter. And they came to this location, and there were waters there. There was a well there, but it wasn't drinkable. It was bitter. It was Marah. So the people grumbled at Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" And notice what takes place. By the Red Sea, they had grumbled to Moses because there was, in that case, there had been too much water. Here at the waters of Marah, they're grumbling because the waters that are there are bitter. So first there was too much water by the Red Sea, and now there's water, but it's bitter. Then he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, and he threw it into the waters. I love the fact that a tree brought about a change, because it did one for us too. You see, the Lord, Christ, died upon a tree and changed our bitterness to sweetness. And so here notice they threw the tree into the waters, and the waters became sweet. There he made for them a statute and regulation, and there he tested them. And it reminds us of the one who was tested in our place, dying upon a tree for us. Well, he said, if you will give earnest heed to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his sight, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you which I have put on the Egyptians, for I, the Lord, am your healer. And so here's a promise. God says, you follow the law that I'm going to be giving you. Now he hasn't given it all to him yet, but when he does, something that we've learned about some of those laws, especially those dietary laws, they're quite healthy for you. And so notice, I'll put none of the diseases on you which I've put on the Egyptians. Well, then they came to Elim. That's the next stop on the way, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they camped there beside the waters, and that must have been sheer heaven by comparison. Then they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the sons of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin. Notice they're moving southward. The wilderness of Sin, that's not a sinful place, that's just where we get the name Sinai from, which is between Elim and Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after the departure from the land of Egypt. So now they're coming to the wilderness of Sin, and this is, again, a dry and barren area. They're moving southward, down toward not toward the very tip, but to the southern part of the Sinai Peninsula. And the whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the sons of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, where we sat by the pots of meat, where we ate bread to the full, for you've brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. You see, there's a lot of people, and there's almost no food. There's no way that a group this size could survive for any amount of time in the Sinai wilderness, unless God did something supernatural. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether or not they will walk in my instruction. And it will come about on the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. That will be for the Sabbath day. So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, at evening you will know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, for he hears your grumblings against the Lord. And what are we that you grumble against us? You're grumbling against us. We didn't bring you here. God brought you here. And it came about, as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I've heard the grumblings of the sons of Israel. Speak to them, saying, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. He's going to give them meat, he's going to give them bread. And you shall know that I am the Lord your God. So they're going to have meat, but they're also going to have bread, or at least a bread equivalent. So it came about at evening that the quails came up and covered the camp. Suddenly it is bird city. And in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp, and when the layer of dew evaporated, behold, on the surface of the wilderness there was a fine flake-like thing, fine as the frost on the ground. It looked like it had almost snowed. When the sons of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? Now that phrase, what is it, in the Hebrew, the way you say that in Hebrew, man hu, man is what? What is, and you don't say it, it's either he or she. What is, who is he? What is he? What is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, it is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. And Moses said to them, let no man leave any of it until morning. But you know what's going to happen. They did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till morning, and it bred worms and became foul. and there wasn't any water to do any cleaning. And Moses was angry with them. And they gathered it morning by morning, every man as much as he should eat. But when the sun grew hot, it would melt. So it would be there at the beginning of morning. You could eat it, and then it would disappear. Now it came about on the sixth day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, then he said to them, this is what the Lord meant. Tomorrow is a Sabbath observance, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake, and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over put aside to be kept until morning. Normally it would have gone bad, but this time it won't. So they put it aside until morning, as Moses had ordered, and it did not become foul, nor was there any worm in it. And Moses said, eat it today, for today is the Sabbath of the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day of the Sabbath there will be none. And it came about on the 7th day that some of the people went out to gather, but they didn't find any. They found none. And the house of the Lord named it, remember what they asked? They said, what is it? They named it man. Our translation says manna. What? What is it? They called it the whatchamacallit. And it was like coriander seed, white. And its taste was like wafers with honey. It was like dessert. They got to eat dessert every day. And it was healthy, and it nourished them. Moses said to Aaron, take a jar and put an omerful of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. Now, a little bit of, was it inside the Ark of the Covenant? Was it just outside? Not really sure. But verse 35, the sons of Israel ate the manna 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. You wonder, why isn't there more evidence for the Israelites being in the wilderness for 40 years? Because God's providing for them. He's providing for them supernaturally. They're not having to go out and plant things. They're not having to go out and hunt. God provides for them. And we read, they ate the manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. God provides for them in the wilderness, supernaturally. He has provided for us as well in the bread of life, Jesus Christ, the righteous one.